Listen, this is going to feel personal, because it is. There's a reason her face, or maybe just a feeling you can't explain, keeps crossing your mind. It's subtle, almost easy to ignore. But what if I told you that this is not random at all? What if this moment is one of those rare times when heaven gently taps on your shoulder and waits to see if you'll respond? I've learned something over time. God doesn't interrupt your thoughts without purpose. When He places someone on your heart like this, especially when you don't fully understand why, it usually means something deeper is unfolding behind the scenes, something urgent, something that involves you more than you realize. And before we go any further, if this is already stirring something inside you, go ahead and comment 777, not for me, but as a quiet way of saying, God, I'm listening. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a message, it might be an assignment. And the question is, are you ready to understand why this woman, out of everyone, has been placed in your path right now? Chosen ones, God is asking you to help this woman right now. I need to tell you this plainly because I do not believe this is random, and deep down, I think you know that too. God is drawing your attention toward a woman whose life is tied to yours by His hand. Not later, not when everything finally makes sense, and not when the timing feels easy. He is asking for your response now. I have seen moments like this in real life, and they rarely arrive in a convenient form. They come with a quiet weight, a strange urgency, and a pull in your spirit you cannot fully explain. Maybe you have felt that lately. That unrest, that inner tug, that sense that someone is on your heart for a reason. This is not about pity. It is about purpose. She is not crossing your path by accident. She is standing at an intersection God Himself arranged, and what you do next carries more meaning than you realize. I have learned that heaven often watches most closely in small private moments, when no one is clapping, no one is confirming, and you still move because you feel God pressing gently on your heart. God does not create random connections. When He ties two lives together, something is always being exchanged in the spirit. What you carry may unlock strength, clarity, protection, or healing for her. And what she carries may be connected to a part of your own next season that you cannot step into alone. That is often how God works. He wraps answers in people. He places comfort in a voice, provision in a hand, rescue in a decision, and healing in someone simply showing up. One message, one conversation, one act of kindness can change the direction of a person's whole life. That is why compassion matters when it becomes action. Prayer is holy, yes, but there are doors that only open when love takes a real step forward. Paul said, we are to carry one another's burdens, and in doing that, we fulfill the law of Christ. Your willingness to help is not a side issue. It is part of living out the heart of Jesus. I have seen people pray for breakthrough while ignoring the very person God placed in front of them. I have also seen what happens when someone says yes. Things begin to move. That is what this moment feels like to me. Movement, not only for her, but for you too, because obedience is a bridge. It connects the power of God to the need of a human life. Somewhere this woman may have been crying out to God in secret, and now God is placing that burden near a willing heart. You may be closer to someone's answered prayer than you realize. And I want to say this carefully. Spiritual urgency is not the same as panic. It is alignment. It is God highlighting what matters now. In a world where everything feels urgent, that distinction matters. When God brings someone into your awareness with holy urgency, it feels different. It may be quiet, but it stays with you. You cannot shake it. You may try to reason it away, but it keeps returning. That is often how God speaks when He wants obedience, not endless analysis. The truth is, God could handle all of this without you, but He loves partnership. Throughout Scripture, His help often arrived through ordinary people who simply said yes. Moses had Aaron. Ruth had Boaz. Elijah was fed by a widow in famine. The man on the Jericho road was not restored by a sermon, but by a Samaritan who stopped and helped. Even now, God still uses ordinary people to become turning points in somebody else's story. That is the pattern. God often calls the willing before the qualified. He did not choose you because you feel fully ready. He chose you because you are available, and availability matters deeply to Him. God is not always looking for the most polished person in the room. He is looking for the one who will listen, the one who will not talk themselves out of compassion, the one who will not dismiss a holy nudge just because it came quietly. So do not minimize what you are feeling. Scripture tells us not to despise small beginnings. What looks small in your hands can become massive in God's plan. A check-in, a message, a conversation, a practical act of help, a moment of showing up. These things may look ordinary on the surface, but heaven knows the weight they carry. Many people miss purpose because they expect it to arrive loudly, but that is rarely how God works. Destiny often enters wearing plain clothes. It comes disguised as inconvenience, interruption, or compassion that costs something. That is why this moment matters. You are not standing outside it. You are standing inside it. I have learned something about God's way. Before He entrusts visible influence, He watches what you do in private. Before there is impact people can see, there is faithfulness almost nobody notices. Before a larger assignment appears, God studies the heart. Heaven often begins in hidden obedience. Look at Ruth. She was not chasing influence. She simply stayed loyal in a painful season. And through that quiet devotion, she stepped into a story that touched generations. David shows the same pattern. He was obeying his father, carrying food, ready to return home after a simple task. But that act of service placed him exactly where destiny was waiting. God does not always lead you into your next season through dramatic announcements. Sometimes He leads you there through ordinary acts of responsibility. And when Jesus told the story of the Good Samaritan, He was revealing the heart of God through compassion. The Samaritan became a picture of heaven because he stopped, cared, and responded. Mercy was the revelation, not applause, just mercy in motion. That is why helping this woman matters more than it may seem. When you help the right person at the right time, God moves on your behalf in ways you never could have designed for yourself. Favor often responds to alignment. I have seen this in life more than once. A delayed plan, an inconvenient conversation, a moment I almost brushed aside became the very thing that shifted everything afterward. That is why I do not treat these quiet nudges lightly anymore, and I believe that is what is happening here. God is drawing your attention now because this window is open for a reason, not forever, not someday, now. Delayed obedience may not separate you from God, but it can delay what would have unfolded through your yes. I have lived that personally. There were times I delayed what I knew God was asking of me, and later I realized the delay came from my hesitation. But this is not only about her, it is also about who you are becoming while you obey. Every assignment from God touches something outward and forms something inward. God is shaping your heart through this. Character is what sustains destiny, and character is rarely built in public. So do not ignore this stirring in your spirit. Do not reason yourself out of what God is making clear. Do not underestimate the force of one faithful response. Move when He says move. Stand in the gap. Be the helper He is calling forward in this moment. Because when you say yes to God's assignment, you are also saying yes to the future He has been preparing for you. And this moment, quiet as it may seem, may be the very key to the things you have been praying would finally open. If this message has been sitting heavy on your spirit, do not brush it aside. Some moments are more than emotional. Some moments are God placing a decision in your hands and watching what you do with it. And I believe this may be one of those moments for you. The woman God brought to your heart is not random. Your compassion is not random. Your stirring is not random. This may be the very place where obedience opens the next door in your life. I have seen it too many times to ignore it. When God asks for a simple yes, that yes often carries more power than we understand in the moment. So do not wait for perfect clarity. Move with the light you have. Reach out, pray, show up, help in the way God is placing on your heart. And if this word spoke directly to you, type "I will obey" in the comments. I want to see who is choosing to move when God whispers. Also, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need this message today. And above all, stay sensitive, because one act of obedience can change her story, and it may also unlock the answer you have been praying for.